Welcome back, Hnrs. Good stuff, right? Welcome back on this Saturday, right? We're going to pick up where we left off in class, talking about, like, Roman conquest of the Italian peninsula, right? Oh, God, no. Stop. Just... There we go. That's better, right? So, pick up where we left off in class, talking about the organization of the Roman military following the sacking of Rome by the Gauls, right? So, the big thing about it is some of you are going to get all upset and stuff, and you're going to be like, why was this flip so long? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I feel like it. That's why. Also, it's stuff that I love to talk about without y'all having to, like, raise your hand and ask questions like inquisitive children. Ew, right? So, but anyway... So, the Gauls, of course, following the most epic mic drop of all time, woe be to the conquered, are going to actually organize themselves following that destruction. Now, the Romans are going to organize themselves following that destruction, right? Well, they're going to organize themselves by legion, right? Now, some people were always like, the most basic unit of the Roman military is the centurion. My name's Dean. Now, well, the thing about it is, Dean... when you're talking about their basic unit, if you actually throw this into any, like, academic article kind of research system, usually, like JSTOR will tell you, the basic unit is a legion due to the fact that they can easily subdivide legions and send them out to take over smaller areas, right? Now, if you've had several legions of 5,000 men, that's a huge standing army, right? So they're going to very easily start taking over people on the Italian peninsula. Now, the big thing is, like we talked about, when Robert the Gardener referenced Cyrus the Great in class, which I didn't get a chance to tell you how impressed I was by the fact that you were like, boom, Cyrus the Great intolerance. It is huge, though. Good job, Robert. Now, allowed conquered people to keep their customs and religion and had to pledge to loyalty to Rome, though, and pay taxes. They extended citizenship of being as a Roman to many of these people on the Italian peninsula because as far as they were concerned, you're not really that removed from us in generality, right? So, but anyway, now we can get past this guy. But by 500 BC, here we go, so let me get me out of the way for you real quick. There you go. By about 500 BC, the Romans had extended their power to most of the Italian peninsula, with the exception of a couple of areas like Sicily, that the Carthaginians actually owned different parts of that, right? And also the Greeks were still hanging out on different parts of Sicily, but they had actually, like, destroyed the Samnites, the Umbrians, the Etruscans, the Celts, a lot of different people, right? And they end up establishing small colonial bases, right? Which is actually very, very neat when you think about the fact that an ancient group, I don't want to open pages. That was annoying. Now, anyway, but continuing forward, though, there we go. Really, really cool thing that they did as well. Some people were like, this is basic. It's not even that important. Oh, I don't want to open pages. All right, so there we go. Now, anyway, Romans are going to build roads, right? So I need you to write a quote down really, really quick that's phenomenally important for discussing the infrastructure of Rome. Number one, write that down. Infrastructure, right? infrastructure, infrastructure, right? Which is basically the means of which an empire, civilization, whatever have you, actually extends their influence and also makes traveling and movement of goods easier, right? An infrastructure. But here's a really, really great quote that so many people have said over time, and I don't even know who said it first, but it really, really defines the infrastructure of Rome. It's all roads lead to Rome. And I guarantee Grace is writing it in several different color pens right now and underlining it, and probably drawing some type of Marvel-themed character that actually has a car of some type on one of those said roads, right? So now, which is fine by me. Now, anyway, but the Romans are going to build roads. All roads lead to Rome, and they actually are going to build roads to connect the empire of these common new areas so they can share the fruits of their conquering stuff with their new citizens, right? So the big thing about it with this tolerance... Josie, get out of that! Ugh, gosh, so annoying. Get away from the trash can. Hey, get away from the trash can. Now, anyway, Rome's going to build roads to connect the empire. I would call Rufio up here Hobbs, but he's currently sleeping now, and he's, like, underneath about 18 different layers of covers right now because he, like, burrows underneath them. Now, Rome's going to build roads to connect the empire and share the fruits of their new conquering citizens, right? So they're going to grow and emanate and actually set up roads so they can easily share the new, like, ideas of it. Now, really, really quick, does anybody think, what do you think a Roman road looked like? All right, Shannon. All right, Emma Shannon, I like where your head's at. You're like, oh, you know, like cobblestone kind of. You'd be exactly right there. Tom Zinski, I heard you, though, too. You're like, maybe like, you know, like just like dirt and stuff. Well, here's the irony. You're both right. Both Emmas are right, okay? So not every road looked like this, okay? Not every single road looked as very, very well functioning as this did, right? Some of the roads were dirt paths and very, very simply connected to other more developed roads. But here's the thing about it, right? Like, this is a very well-designed apparatus, a very well-designed Rome that actually has sand, stone, slabs, cement, crushed stone, cement, and then also stone blocks on top of it. The fact that they were able to build these at all is very impressive, but they were going to build roads so their new empire is just more traversable, right? So I don't want to open that either. There we go. Nice. All right, so I just should use this. All right, now, anyway, so the Romans are going to build a lot of roads, basically, is what we're getting at. Now we got to talk about something very important. What the Romans actually prided themselves on more than anything else, their republic, right? Their government. You're not that bad. All right, anyway, now, come here. I should try to be nicer to her. But anyway, this is Josie. Hi, Josie. I don't hate you. I just don't like how you don't listen sometimes. Now, anyway, the Roman Republic, though, is what they are most well known for, right? The Roman Republic is this thing that is the rule by the people, right? The rule by the people and the rule by the ideas under the guise of the Roman, eyes of their government, right? Now, it all centers itself around this place, though. The Roman Forum, right? So write that down. The Forum. F-O-R-U-M, right? Now, really quickly, we've got to discuss what the heck happens in the Forum, right? So inside of the Forum, like I said, I don't actually hate you. I just want you to act right. Now, anyway, so the Roman Forum is very, very important because a lot of different things are going to go on in the Roman Forum, right? Now, in the Roman Forum, what's going to go down is, got gray hairs. Roman Forum is home to 4 separate different events and things of Roman life, right? First of all, many live outside of the Forum, right? We'll talk about that here in a second. Religious ceremonies happen in the Forum. It is the focal point of their government. It's where the Senate meets and discusses new ideas with the people, right? And then also it's a center of trade, right? The Forum actually was where people would sell their wares and things like that. But the Roman Forum was, and religious ceremonies, I said religious ceremonies, all right? And next to religious ceremonies, but temples and things like that, right? So the Roman Forum was like the epicenter of Rome. The center of Rome and everything else emanates out of it. It actually also is strategically placed in the middle of those 7 hills, right? So, yeah, fine. Don't take my love. All right, now, anyway, so it's built directly at the base of all the 7 hills, so it's equally accessible to all of them, right? Now, also a really cool event that would happen in the Forum is every time a new emperor was crowned during the Empire period, they would actually ride through the road of the emperors, through the Forum to their adoring fans and everything like that. The Colosseum is also right off the backside of it, even though the Colosseum was built way, way, way after this. The Forum is one of the earliest structures in Rome, and it is absolutely beautiful. And now you're going to see some pictures of my wife and I when we went there. Now, anyway, so this is me standing in the Forum of Rome. These are the pillars of the Temple of Jupiter, right? That actually is one of the last standing things. And it is completely in ruins altogether. It does not look nearly what it should look like. I just wish I could see it the way that it was meant to be, right? So now, but here, right here, there's my wife and I again when I'm talking about history stuff. Now, this is really cool. That is an arch, a victory arch, right? That one specifically is the Arch of Titus, right? So then there's the Arch of Constantine that's over near the Colosseum. But every time the Romans would win a major battle or bring someone new into their empire, they would erect one of these, a victory arch, an arch symbolizing the conquest of these new lands, right? And this is the only time I take good pictures when my back is turned, right? So, but that actually is a beautiful, beautiful archway. And if you walk through it, the Arch of Titus commemorates one of their conquests of Jerusalem, actually. And there are a lot of different, recessive images on the inside of it of Romans carrying things like menorahs and different items of the Jewish faith as well, and their plundering of them. And really, really, remember how I told you, what ancient text of the Torah has what's the oldest version of the Torah? What's the oldest? Answer that. Good job, Jackie, right? The Dead Sea Scrolls. And what was inside of it? Remember I told you there was a creepy little thing that was inside of it? And good job, Michael. Treasure map, right? And really quickly, though, who did I say is a good chance that probably took all of those treasures? Very nice job, Sadie. The Romans probably, right? So this archway could be commemorating those conquests and the digging up of those things that they actually found, right? Some people have actually been like, there's a box inside of it too. Maybe it's the Ark of the Covenant, which I hope that's the case, but we all know Indiana Jones has got it. So anyway, now, also really quick, that's not my arm right there. That's this guy's pant leg. It's like an optical illusion, like I'm wearing a shoe on my hand. Now, anyway, but continuing forward, this is very cool too. So this is me standing at the base of Roman apartments, right? So if you look up on the wall itself, and you can see all the holes right here, those are actually support beams to create a flooring device the Romans actually lived all around. The Roman Forum was flanked on all sides by apartments, and many Romans would actually live inside of apartment-style dwellings, which is really, really cool. And then, continuing forward, though, now we got to talk about the fact that Roman history is basically broken up into just two, kind of three periods, right? Some other historians, revisionist historians, are, well, it should be 4 periods when we're talking about the early establishment, the Republic, the Empire, and then the blah, 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 blah. For the purposes of Mr. Terry's class and Mr. Terry as a historian, I'm going to go with 2 periods of Rome, and the third period is something I confer more with the Middle Ages. We're going to just say 2. And what they are is, let me throw my face over here, is the Republic and the Empire. They are known by 2 very famous things, their government and their empire, right? Basically meaning that ruled by the people, ruled by your imperators or your emperor, right? So really quick, getting after it, I can guarantee you right now that right there is a fill-in-the-blank question on your test. So you may need to make sure you have those dates down. The Republic goes from about 750 BC, following the 750 BC because they established their rule underneath their Etruscan rulers, to about 29 BC, which is actually following the execution of Caesar and the induction of his grandnephew Augustus, and that is when the empire begins from 29 BC to 476 AD when Rome falls, right? So, but continuing forward, the Roman Republic and the Empire, they're 2 basic periods. For us to be able to talk about those things, there's some words that we need to know, right? So just some words, general terms that you need to know when you're talking about the Roman Republic. The first one is just republic, right? A republic is a government ruled by chosen by the people. Wow. Ruled by a government chosen by the people. Man, I can't. Sorry. Like, sometimes the dyslexia acts up and legitimately, I have dyslexia, and sometimes I can't form coherent sentences. What I'm saying with republic, though, is a republic is a government ruled by chosen people, right? So, hence, a government ruled by its people, right? So, the thing about it is, the Romans actually had some slight voting practices, but they weren't fully democratic. They would actually elect different people to these things called citizen assemblies, and the citizen assemblies would then choose the senators, the consuls, and then dictators were brought in during a time of war. We're going to draw all this on the board later on, okay? Now, consuls, speaking of, very important, they are either of 2 elected chief officials in Rome. We still have consuls in our government. We just don't call them that anymore. We have the leader of the House and the leader of the Senate now, right? Those are our consuls. They lead over our legislative branches, right? And then they had a dictator. We don't call him a dictator anymore. We call him a president, right? So now, anyway, and that's for every president. That's not me making a political statement of the times, right? Like Obama is considered would be considered like the dictator in Rome, or like George Bush Jr. or Reagan or anybody. You know what I mean? Like, so dictator is a ruler only brought in during a time of war, right? Now, we know this already because we already talked a little bit briefly about Cincinnatus and his, chief official ruling of Rome, right, as its dictator. And then the last one we have is the Senate, okay? So the Senate is like the marquee thing of the Roman Republic. Under the guise of their government, they believe that the Senate to be the highest governing body in Rome, right? Highest governing body. Well, highest governing body, yes, but I want you to put really quick underneath it, it's unfair because only the wealthy could participate in the Senate, all right? So let's get into why it was unfair. However, first of all, let's talk about how important these 4 letters are to Romans, right? This right here, many Romans have this tattooed on their body to this day. The Roman city uses this symbol constantly. These 4 letters define Roman government and the prestige of their republic. SPQR. It's on all of their royal insignias. It's on everything important to Rome, those 4 letters. And what those 4 letters mean, SPQR, is not SPQR, all right? So, but SPQR, it's even on their manhole covers in Rome, right? I actually took this picture when we were walking over them. Ignore the cigarette butt. No, and the gum. But in Latin, it means Senatus Populus Romanum, also known as the Senate, the Roman Senate and people, right? So they even refer to their people in their republic governing style inside of their trademark SPQR, right? So going forward, though, the thing about it is now we got to discuss how the SPQR thing can really get turned up. And, who are the people that are participating in this government? Well, first and foremost, Romans did have a code of law that actually governed their day-to-day lives and things like that. Many are going to refer to it as Roman law, all right? So, but also known as, when we're referring to it more properly in the historical community, we call it the 12 tables, right? So it's due to the fact that it's not 12 laws, it's written on 12 separate tablets, right? So the big thing is that we'll talk about, there's some goofy laws in it, but a lot of it protects property rights. Excuse me, but we'll talk about it a little bit more on Monday. Now we're going to talk about the struggle of the orders. Now, anyway, here's another really important thing. You need to write a star next to this because there is technically no written constitution setting up Rome's government. It's actually just a system of adopted beliefs. Anyway, but remember that, okay? There is no written constitution setting up this government, okay? But there is only an assumed system of beliefs. One of the biggest assumed beliefs they have are the 3 social classes that they believed existed in Rome. It's really more like 2 social classes and then another group of people. But the 2 societal classes that they believed existed in Rome were the patricians, which was the wealthy, landowning, ruling class, right? When I say patrician, I like to put my pinky up in the air and go, ooh, patrician, right? So, because, like, they think they're so fancy. Now, anyway, but they lead the military. They're officers in the military. They work in the Senate, as it is only allowed to have patricians inside of it. To give you a number of how many senators there were at the time, you could go up to, like, there was about 400 senators when the Roman Republic was really officially established. But under Augustus, it got all the way up to like 900. So it's a large ruling body, right? So they work in the Senate, only ones who know Roman law, right? So the patricians are the only people that can read and write, really, because most of your plebes can't do that. The patricians make up about 5%. I'm going to double check that on my little fact checker here, but about 5% of Roman society. And then underneath them, you have the plebes, right? The plebeians, the common people of Rome. Really, really quickly, next to this, let's talk about what the word plebe means, right? P-L-E-B in Latin means the masses. How much of Roman society patricians? Hold all the power. Come on, I need some percentages here. Pretty confident it's like 5% are patricians and about 95% of them are plebes. Now, the big thing about it, though, going forward, is the fact that the plebes do everything. And their name literally means the masses. Like, you can actually insult people using the phrase plebe. I like to tell Hoover kids they're plebes, right? Because they're the uninformed, the basic, right? So now, the common people of Rome, known as plebes or plebeians, right? They do several things for the Roman Empire. They are farmers, soldiers, craft workers, and merchants, right? So everything that needs get done is done by a plebeian. Their economy is dependent. The economy of the Roman government is dependent on them. The military of the Roman government is dependent on the plebeians. The crafts and the entire agricultural sector, eating is dependent on the plebeians. They had a voice in the government, but could not be elected to public office. They could actually help choose people in the citizen assembly, but they had no right to do anything else, right? They also pay the bulk of the taxes in Rome, right? So as you can see, this is very unfair. Now, who's at the very, very bottom? Slaves are at the very bottom of Roman society, right? So to give you a little window into the life of a patrician, this is what it looked like when patricians would dine. So remember when I told you that Greeks would actually dine reclined and they would be leaned back and eating everything with their hands? Well, Romans did the same thing, except they did it all on their stomachs like this, leaning over top of a little lap pillow that actually went underneath their chest, okay? So that's the life of a patrician. This is a life of a plebeian, hitting each other with wooden sticks, all right? So now, anyway, going forward, though, the patricians are inherently afraid of the plebeians. Why? Because the plebes just had no idea, right? So really quick, anybody want to offer up a reason why they think that is? Why do you think that the plebes instill fear in the patricians a little bit? Anybody? Good job, Sarah, right? The plebes had few rights, but were kept happy to avoid the mob, right? The plebes struck fear into the heart of the patricians because the patricians were well aware that there were so many of them that if they were to rise up, they could easily take over the government, right? And the whole entire city-state of Rome. So what the patricians are going to do to avoid the mob is try to keep them happy with distractions, right? And that big distraction was called the Circus Maximus, right? The Circus Maximus is an example of entertainment and games that actually would be used to distract plebeians and keep them happy. At these big events that they would have inside the Circus Maximus, they would throw bread into the crowds, and they would have gladiatorial bouts, but the Circus Maximus was the big premier event for something else. Everybody always refers to the gladiators in the Colosseum being the thing that the patricians and the plebeians watched together to avoid the Roman mob, which is true, but this came first. The more popular event was not the gladiatorial bouts, but the fact of chariot racing, right? So chariot racing was done in the Circus Maximus, and it is a very, 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 very cool place to see. I've actually been there. It is now a public park inside of Rome, right? So you can actually see right here, this is what is left behind of the Circus Maximus. This is the tower in the middle that actually, one of the remaining towers inside the middle of it. And then you can see all the old columns. And here you can actually still see the racetrack. This is the middle track where a lot of the pillars were put. The stands were over here, and then the racetrack was actually right here on that dirt road, right? So now it looked like this when it was built. Of course, nowadays it looks like this. And that's Palatine Hill, where the emperors would actually live up there on the hill. It's a very, very cool thing, but they would actually use it to keep people distracted. And we'll talk some other little fun facts about the Circus Maximus. If you want to go look a couple up about the Circus Maximus and come in and tell me about them on Monday, we'll totally go back and forth a little bit on them, all right? But we're going to stop here because now, Dawn, let me make sure we're stopping here. I think we are, yeah? Yeah, we're stopping here, okay? Because we're going to talk about Roman government and reform due to the inequalities of their society on Monday, all right? So a lot of stuff we went over today. Very, very important, though. And I know it doesn't have as much death and destruction as you typically like, but hey, you got to get some stuff done, right? So I will see you guys on Monday, though. Have a great evening, and go Birds, but they're not playing this weekend, so we'll say go anyone who's playing anyone in the NFC East. Deal? All right, so y'all have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.